The JRPG market is currently flooded with new titles, making it difficult for any single game to stand out. Fairy Tail 2, a direct sequel to the 2020 release, enters this competitive space as a competent but ultimately unremarkable entry. While drawing inspiration from the popular fairy tale manga and anime, the game struggles to escape the shadow of genre heavyweights, offering a familiar but not particularly innovative experience. Approaching the game with limited prior knowledge of the franchise, it's reviewed here primarily as a role-playing game rather than a direct adaptation. Fairy Tail 2 dives straight into the action, with minimal introduction to the ongoing storyline and assuming that players have some knowledge of the established world. This immediate immersion, while exciting, can be confusing for newcomers who may struggle to grasp the nuances of the plot and character relationships. The narrative is propelled forward by the declaration of war from the antagonist, Emperor Spriggan, alongside his elite Spriggan 12. This sets a classic, if somewhat overused, premise, lacking a sense of freshness for those well-versed in the genre. The game's combat system is introduced through an initial encounter with Agil, a member of the Spriggan 12. The turn-based battles have an action-oriented feel, with players managing meters for standard attacks and skills. Strategic thinking is paramount as players need to balance skill usage with regular attacks, and take advantage of timing windows to guard against attacks. Although the starting battle seems like a certain loss, it introduces the game's mechanics in a natural fashion. The combat system is undoubtedly one of the game's strongest features. Fast-paced and visually striking encounters provide a good level of action. Although the meter-based special attack system is not especially innovative, the large number of characters with freely interchangeable roles offers a dynamic and varied experience. An added layer of elemental interactions and combo opportunities keep engagements engaging, although battles do have a tendency to become repetitive over time. Like many other JRPGs, Fairy Tail 2 invites players to explore areas, complete side quests, and battle foes to progress. This offers some familiar ground, with the ability to roam fields, take side missions, and take advantage of first strike combat advantages, adding some much-needed quality of life improvements. Fairy Tail 2 adds to this with a deep combat system that gives players access to break meters, which when depleted allow for link attacks with allies. The character you link up with alters the effects of the attack, and depleting an entire meter allows for critical attacks, eventually culminating in a unison attack when all enemies are in the break state. Elemental weaknesses come into play when opponents prepare powerful attacks, requiring players to deplete a risk meter to disrupt the enemy's attacks, and allows players to swap between team members easily. Visually, Fairy Tail 2 adopts a classic cartoon-inspired aesthetic. While this provides a simple and appealing look, it doesn't push any boundaries. This style has become common in recent titles, meaning Fairy Tail 2 struggles to distinguish itself visually. It's also obvious the game was built for last-gen consoles, with relatively simple environments. The game is also hampered by the lack of an English audio option and a cumbersome method for displaying English subtitles, requiring players to change the language of the console to be displayed properly. Overall, Fairy Tail 2 is a functional JRPG that fulfills all the expected criteria. While the characters are well developed, they don't particularly leave an impact. The graphics are pleasing without being innovative, and the soundtrack is serviceable and immerses players into the world. However, while the game is fundamentally sound, there's nothing exceptional to capture the player's imagination. The result is a capable but uninspired experience that can leave players feeling emotionally detached. It is clear that established Fairy Tail fans will enjoy the game the most. The sequel assumes prior knowledge of the characters, which makes the game harder for newcomers to engage with. The game does feature accessibility options such as a range of difficulty levels and auto-evolve options that will guide players that are looking for that. While it's enjoyable, the game can feel repetitive in longer play sessions. Longtime fans of the franchise are sure to enjoy another adventure, however. In conclusion, if you are a dedicated follower of fairy tale, then this will provide another fun-filled experience. Newcomers, on the other hand, should consider starting with the first game or watching the anime. For those who have no prior connection to the franchise, it's probably best to wait for a significant price reduction before venturing into this title.